the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. Ese es el día. Ese es el día. Ese es el día que hizo el Señor, que hizo el Señor. Y alabaré y me gozaré, y me gozaré. Ese es el día que hizo el Señor, y alabaré y me gozaré. Ese es el día que hizo el Señor. Hiciste fallar, mas tú fuiste fiel. Tu gracia me levantó, me basta tu amor. Dios eterno, tu luz por siempre brillará, y tu gloria incomparable sin final. Señor, tu voluntad permanecerá. En ti me quiero perder en adoración. Dios eterno, tu luz por siempre brillará, y tu gloria incomparable sin final. De mi corazón te doy el control, consume todo mi interior, Dios. Tu justicia y amor me abrazan, Señor. Te amo desde mi interior. In bringing you praise, everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond all fame. Yeah, in my heart and my soul, Lord, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. Everlasting, your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending, your glory goes beyond is to bring you praise from the inside out, Lord. My soul cries out from the inside out, Lord. My soul cries out. In my mother's womb, you formed me with your hands, known and loved by you. Before I took a breath, when I doubted, Lord, remind me that I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. You make all things work together for my future and for my good. You make all things work together for your glory and for your name. There's a healing light just beyond the clouds. Though I've walked through fire, I see clearly now. When I doubted, Lord, remind me that I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. You make all things work together for my future and for my good. You make all things work together for your glory and for your name. Oh, you make it all work out for my good. When I doubted, Lord, remind me that I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. You're not finished with me. You're not finished with me yet. No, you're not finished with me. You're not finished with me. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. No, you're not finished. Oh, you're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. When I doubted, Lord, remind me I'm wonderfully made. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. I know nothing has been wasted, no failure or mistake. You're an artist and a potter, I'm the canvas and the clay. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. You're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet. You're not finished with me. No, you're not finished with me yet.
Good Sabbath, church. Pastor Helmer here, saying hello as I have so far and thus far. As always, hoping, praying that you guys are doing okay, that you guys are doing well. That these times we're living, that you remain faithful and strong and in your faith, and God willing, you're keeping in touch with the church. Even though it's via this platform. Just want to give a announcement before I start the sermon, which we'll continue our series on James today. We will be closed for the rest of the month of January. The board has decided to, in the interest of the church and the health of our members, to stay closed for the month of January. On February 3rd, the board will have another meeting, and we will vote on whether we should open or not, or continue to stay closed. If you have a personal personal feeling about this that you wish to express, please reach out to us, to any one of us on the board, and make your sentiment be heard as to how you feel in regards to this, whether it's we should open up or whether we should stay closed for the good of the church. Please reach out to us. We're trying to hear you guys out as well and see what you guys or what the church is asking of its board. We work for you. We run the church for the benefit of the whole, and it is the church as a whole that we seek to protect and to work in their best interest. So if we could hear from you, how you feel about it, what you think, we'd love to hear it. So let's get going with today's sermon. Last week we covered James. We didn't get too far, and so far we haven't gotten too far. James, we cover chapter from 2 to 4, and today I'm not going to get too much further either. I'm going to cover the last part of verse 4, and I'm going to cover the first part of verse 5, so I'm not even going to cover the whole verse, but I'm going to cover the transition of an idea that is existing. Verse 4 leaves with an idea, and verse 5 picks up that idea, and it's connected, and we're going to see that today. So if you join me, if you open up your Bibles to James chapter 1, and we're going to go from verse 4 to verse 5. And just a small recap, as we read last week, verse 4 states, let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing, right? And we said ipomunai means endurance, which is the definition of steadfastness, which is also means endurance, what it actually means. And James is looking to encourage those that are suffering trials at this very moment. He's looking to exhort them who are questioning the goodness of God in the midst of pain, which is a common thing that we have today, that exists in Christianity today. James is speaking in a time and in a condition that is being lived by Christians across the continent. They are in dispersion. They are Jewish believers who are having a difficult time, and James is speaking specifically to this group. And James explains, he says, let steadfastness, right? Let the endurance have its effect it's supposed to have. You're to remain constant so that it brings about the desired effect. So what we're ultimately saying is, let it have the effect that it is supposed to have. So if you remain constant, right? If we remain constant in the moments of difficulty that we are living, if we endure in these difficult moments, they will bring about a desired effect. And the second part of verse 4, and it says that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. The word perfect here is an odd use of the word that we talked about last week. Remember, perfect means teleos, and teleos has a different meaning than what you and I have interpreted as perfection. Perfection to us is Jesus, the ultimate, no mistakes, nothing wrong. But the actual translation from the original, it's teleos, and teleos, what it means, or what it's the other definition of it is one who is complete, one who is fully developed and mature, a full-grown and expert. Maturity, it's what it's saying. So if we read the verse with that definition, it says that you may be mature and complete, so that you are fully grown, so that you are an expert and mature, and you lack nothing. And we see this language is being borrowed from the Sermon on the Mount, right? Jesus said this in Matthew 5:48. He says, be perfect as your Father in heaven, your heavenly Father is perfect. The part that I want to dive into today, that I want to focus on today, is at the end of verse 4. It states something. It says that you may be perfect and complete, and then it says lacking in nothing. Now, what exactly is James meaning? What does he mean exactly by lacking in nothing? Right? If I say I lack nothing, it means there is nothing that I need. I need nothing, whether it be a physical necessity, spiritual necessity, emotional necessity. We don't know exactly what James is referring to here. So we're going to look at it a little bit closer. What is James talking about in this? What is he saying? What does he mean by lacking in nothing? Look at the similarity, though. In verse 2, it says, consider it all joy. All means everything. There is nothing that is excluded. And verse 4 says, lacking in nothing. So the words all and nothing, they encompass everything. Yes? They leave room for no exceptions. Both all and nothing encompass everything. There's no exception in it. So look, in the sentence right here, I want to give you all that you asked for. I want to give you all that you ask for. There is nothing I wouldn't do for you. Both words do not give an exception when being used. They encompass everything. Although, yeah, one is more negative than the other, right? If we say nothing, it tends to be more negative, but not necessarily, but it is. I want nothing to do with you. You mean nothing to me. There is nothing, but also in the positive, there is nothing I want more than. It's still a word that encompasses everything, just like the word all. They both encompass everything, and they make an exception of nothing. So in verse 4, when it says lacking in nothing, the word nothing actually translates to the Greek lepo. And lepo, what it actually means is falling short. To be inferior, to be in want, to be without. So the verse reads, let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and lacking in nothing. In the original language, if we look at it, if we use the Greek, teleos for perfect, ipomune for steadfastness, and lepo for lacking, what the actual verse is saying, literally what it's trying to say is, let enduring in trial make you whole and mature, so that you do not come up short. That's what the verse 4 actually, the end of verse 4 is what it actually means. Let endurance and steadfastness, let the endurance that you have, let the trials endure in the trials that you are suffering. Let steadfastness have its effect. Let it have its effect and make you mature and whole so that you don't come up short. Think about this for a second. Ultimately, what James is saying, the trials will make you better. It is the trials that will endure you. The hardships that should cause the endurance, the perfection. They are given to us to endure, to suffer through, to become mature. They are given to us so that they may have an effect in us, an effect of maturity, an effect of becoming whole, a full-grown believer, a believer of faith, mature faith. And ultimately, church, what faith is, the goal of faith, to have this faith, to have this mature faith, what this mature faith causes in us, what it's supposed to do for us, is that we should be looking forward to the day of judgment. That's what mature faith does in us. That when we have this type of faith, we look forward to judgment. This type of faith, this is what we seek, this is what we want, this is what we should have. This is the goal of the type of faith that we should be looking for. That James is saying, have the type of faith that you are looking forward to judgment because you lack nothing, because you are mature in faith. Consider this. And think about it as we've come so short and so early in the book of James. This is the beginning of the letter. James, from the very beginning, he's introducing suffering. He's introducing hardships and difficult times. And what he's saying, he says, find joy in the trials. Consider it all joy. James is telling all believers that are enduring trials because there is spiritual maturity that comes from it. Developed believers who do not lack. This is the type of believers that we want to be. Believers that don't fall short. This is what these trials are going to do if we endure. They're going to produce these type of believers, this type of faith. Believers that don't lack. Believers that don't fall short, that don't come up short, that are not in wanting. James is encouraging the believer here that the time that they are living, even though it's a difficult time that they are living, it's not a comfortable Christianity that they're living. And I assure you, it's not the comfortable Christianity that you and I are living. Even now, it's comfortable compared to what they were living. James, what James is trying to express is that there is no reason to come up short. This is the type of faith we should be searching for. Trials, hardships, difficult moments, pain. James says, consider it all joy. These trials are going to cause a change in you and develop you into a mature believer. That's what faith does. Faith, true, mature faith, doesn't come up short. Faith actually welcomes judgment. It welcomes the day of judgment, the day of the Lord. I know that sometimes I've stood before the church in prayer, before ending a service, and sometimes even within the prayer, or especially when I look out and I say the following. I say, I wish Jesus would come tomorrow so this is over with. I wish you could see what I see. You see a bunch of people who you look in their face and they're like, I don't know about that. And I think about this, right? Because you guys know that I have a daughter, I have a 6-month-old daughter now, right? And I ask myself, and I have, and when I ask myself, do I still want that? Because I know that sometimes I look into the crowd, and maybe the reason people are like not completely on board with the idea is because they have yet to experience something. They are yet to see something, whether it's something personal or something that has to do with their children or their family, and they want to experience a certain thing or whatever it may be, a certain milestone maybe. And I think more now I understand what that look of I don't know yet. I understand it, but it doesn't change that I still want the same thing, and I know for a lot of us it's the same. I pray he comes tomorrow. I want him to come tonight, today, or before I post this video. I hope he comes. Because as much as we love our family, our children, as much as we want to experience the milestones in our life, there is no comparison. There is nothing that even comes close. In a sense, I think this is in part what James is getting to develop a mature faith, to look forward to the day of judgment. So the ending of verse 4 ends with, so that you lack nothing. And then verse 5, right? Verse 5 is linked by the same word. Verse 4 ends, so you lack nothing. And then verse 5 uses the same word lack to link verse 4 to 5. So now those two verses are linked, so we got to see how they're linked. It's not a coincidence that they're using the same word. It's purposeful. So verse 4 is, so that you lack nothing. And verse 5, look at what verse 5 says. After all this that we've said, right? If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God. Okay? Now we know that lack means coming up short. That you are in wanting, that you are desiring, right? James just said all these things about we got to suffer through it, we got to go through it, we got to live through it, we got to endure. And he says, but if you lack wisdom, wisdom, what is wisdom? Is wisdom equivalent to intelligence? Are they the same thing? Or are they separate? I'm going to make the argument that they are not the same thing. They are very different. Have you ever met a smart, dumb person? They're smart, right? Like they know so much, but they're so dumb sometimes. You know, that person that gives great advice, but for some reason they can't apply it to themselves. They speak to your life, they speak to what you're saying, to your situation, and it makes perfect sense. And they know so much, but are unable to use their own knowledge to their own benefit. They can't apply what they know and what they are saying to their own life, to themselves. And you look at them and you're like, you're so right. It's so, what you're saying is so right and so smart, but like, how dumb are you that you don't see it for yourself? And I'm not trying to offend anyone here, but I know that's what we think. And there's a reason why this is so important. And the reason I bring it up, because it's really important. As I speak to people, right? As I counsel them, as I've spoken to a lot of people, even where you guys know that I work, I counsel a lot of middle schoolers, but they're middle schoolers. At least that is an excuse for them, right? But we have adults also that we sit and we speak to them, we talk to, and they can see the problem they have. They're able to identify the issue in their life. They accept the issue that they are living. The problems they understand where the problem is coming from. They sometimes understand why they feel the way they do or why they act the way they do. But for some reason, this knowledge and this acceptance of where everything stems from doesn't translate or doesn't transfer to an action or an application. Here, look. Let me go even deeper, right? A better example. As humans, we have phobias. A lot of people have phobias. Phobias is a fear, and it's a high fear, a fear of almost a fear that is visibly, it's visible physically when you're afraid of something, and they're called phobias. There's phobias like something like aerophobia, which is fear of flying. There's acrophobia, which is fear of heights. There's lilassophobia, which is a phobia where you're afraid of hurricanes and tornadoes. Which to a certain extent, these type of phobias, they're justifiable. And I say they're justifiable because such things, and these things, flying, heights, they're dangerous. They can sincerely cause you to die in a plane, or you go too high, or hurricanes and tornadoes are literally things that every year they kill people, right? So we can say that in a way it's a justifiable phobia. But look, there's certain phobias, such as, and I'm going to have to read this one really close because they're really weird. Papyrophobia, fear of paper. Genophobia, fear of knees. Yes, knees, like your leg, knees. Chromophobia, fear of colors. And the one of the most oddest I've ever heard. Porphyrophobia, porphyrophobia, the fear of the color purple. These are real. I'm not making them up. Now, I'm going to take a risk here and say these particular fears are irrational. I hope you don't disagree with me, because I'm sure the medical community doesn't disagree with me. And I say this because I talk to people who have had some irrational fears. And when I spoke to them about these phobias and these irrational fears that they have, in which they can rationalize how absurd it is to be afraid of what they are afraid of, they are able to rationalize and deduce that what they are afraid of is irrational. But they are unable to apply that to their life. They are the accepting of the irrational fear and knowing that it is irrational does not translate or cause or transfer into the person no longer being afraid. It does not remove fear. So, see, wisdom is the application of our knowledge and experience to our life and our situations. Usually when we speak of wisdom, it is usually gained from experience. Not from reading it somewhere, but from experiencing certain things, certain situations in which that experience has allowed us to adjust our behavior. Therefore, wisdom is the application of our knowledge and life experience to our lives. If we do not apply it, it's not wisdom. It's just knowledge. If what you know isn't applied to your life, it's not wisdom. It's just something you know. You are knowledgeable. You know these things. If you knew better and you did it anyways, then you're the opposite of wise. Insert whatever adjective you like here. But it is the application of knowledge that is wisdom. So see, verse 5 says, in the transition, after it says endure your steadfastness so that you lack nothing. Verse 5 says, it opens up with, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask. Why this transition? Why go from what it says in verse 4, which is, let the endurance you suffer help you, shape you in a way in which you will lack nothing. And then 5 states, but if you lack wisdom. Again here, lack, lepo, come up short. So the question is, or what it's saying is, if anyone falls short, if anyone does without, if anyone is in need or want on wisdom, ask. James has given us here, you see in verse 2 through 4, James has given us an almost overall instruction of faith. And what mature faith should look like. What the end result of a mature faith is. But verse 5, it gets a little more detailed, like it jumps in a little more, almost like it's giving you certain tools that you need in order to fulfill this type of faith. See here, verse 4 is the ideal in which you and I should aim to be. Let our endurance make us complete in this way. And verse 5 is a probability of what may be possible to those who are trying to reach the maturity of verse 4. See, verse 4 is the ideal. It's what we need to aim at. Let endurance make us complete. It's what we should be aiming to be. Verse 5 is the probability of what might occur in the transition or in the process of reaching verse 4. Or in case what I'm telling you isn't the whole case. In case verse 4 isn't yet applicable to you. That might mean that verse 5 is what you're going through at this moment. You might be lacking in something. There's a tool that you need in order to have this mature faith that verse 2, 3, and 4 are speaking about. Because wisdom is a tool that is used so that we may endure. Wisdom is a tool that God uses for our understanding and our perfection. If you are not yet at the ideal, what verse 4 through to 4 is declaring. Verse 5 dives into specifics of the tools that we might be lacking in order to fulfill the ideal. And the tool that it dives into first, that it sees as imperative, is wisdom. Remember I said James was inspired by the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 1:7 says, for the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So this spiritual maturity, this endurance of trials, James tells us that this ability to be able to endure begins with wisdom. In order to be able to suffer through, in order to be able to endure, in order to be able to have steadfastness, there is something that we have that allows us to do so. It's called wisdom. And if you are not yet at the ideal, ask. Jesus himself said this, that we should. In Matthew 7:7. Again, James is repeating the words. He's using Jesus' words to express this ideal. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open. So James is saying, if this is something that you're looking for, that you need, that you desire, therefore ask. And he will give it to you. And next week we're going to look at exactly what that looks like and possibly why we haven't gotten it. Why some of us have not received it yet. And the wisdom that he will give you is not just any wisdom. Proverbs 2:6 says, For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. You see that? From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding of the situation that you are suffering, so that you understand what it is supposed to be happening inside of you. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding to decipher exactly what situation you're living and what the outcome might be. But that comes with wisdom. This godly wisdom that indeed we are all in need of. So indeed, obviously, we are all in need of spiritual maturity of this kind, of this level. If the phobias in your life are weighing you down, and sometimes they don't even have to be ridiculous, and they're just fears that we have that sometimes are irrational, or just fears that we have that we just don't want to let go of them. Sometimes fears are what define us. It's what gives us our personality, is what people know us by our fears. And sometimes the pain is comfortable, or we live in pain and we justify it and we never let go of it. Consider this tool, church, that we lack this certain tool of wisdom. Look, church, if we have yet to truly fear God, if we haven't feared God more than anything else, then we haven't really entered into true wisdom. If you look at your lives and you see what's wrong, and maybe you can even know what's wrong and where it comes from, but you don't apply godly wisdom, or you don't apply wisdom, then nothing will change. It all stays the same. We see them just like these people that see phobias. That although you can rationalize it, you can see where it stems from, but still there is no application of wisdom, then nothing is ever going to change. But that's so common, isn't it? We've seen people with these phobias, these spiritual phobias. They can speak and quote the Bible like anybody's business. But for some reason, they can't apply it to their lives. We know these people. We know these people who give great godly advice, but for some reason, they don't take their own advice. There are people who know and read the scriptures, but that application is not necessarily for me. There are a lot of intelligent believers, but the knowledge of the scriptures, if it doesn't change the heart, there is nothing there. There is no change. It is the application of this knowledge that causes change. And when we are these people, that we have this knowledge and yet we lack in applying it, don't let me lie. It's obvious sometimes. And sometimes our lives are evidence of that. But James is saying, if this is what you want, if you want to be the type of mature believer that lacks nothing, that doesn't come up short, ask. And we'll see next week what that looks like. So, if today, you're one of those people who pride yourselves in how long you've been coming to church, or how much you read your Bible, but your life is a mess, God wants to fix this. He wants us, he wants you to be this mature believer that doesn't lack. That has the faith that will endure, that will welcome judgment. And when this faith exists, church, it is evident. We can see it. May it be evident in all of our lives. Pray for this godly wisdom for all of us. That God gives us His knowledge and His understanding, so that our lives change, so that we mature in this faith. And for a lot of us, for a lot of you, that we keep maturing. May the Lord bless you and keep you until we congregate again. Pasaos.
Faithfulness, I'm still in your hands. This is my call.